So we're catching up with a couple of brothers here at GDC Play to find out a little bit more about a game that, you know, the label says it all, really. Fist Puncher. So what kind of game is this?
Fist Puncher is a side-scrolling retro brawler. We kind of think of it as Castle Crashers meets Double Dragon. So it's got 15 playable characters, 50 levels, but then underneath that we have lots of unlockables, an RPG system where you level characters up, you purchase perks and new moves for the characters, and then a system of 99 trading card achievements to give the game a lot of replayability and something for the hardcore gamers to try to, the completionists to try to get done with while they're playing the game.
So I think we need to set the stage here. What's going on here? These enemies look kind of crazy.
Well, right now we're fighting in a level called Stripper Town, and it's actually maybe more appropriately named the Pervert District. So you fight a lot of strippers, it opens up and you fight a lot of guys in sailor costumes with no pants. And now you got some S&M guys here in their leather and spikes. There's a big reveal at the end. I don't want to give that away, but sufficient to say Pervert Town is the appropriate title for this level.
So I think you got your James Bond style character here, maybe your Chuck Norris style character. Is that sort of a correct assessment?
Yeah, there's actually 4 main characters in Fist Puncher. We got Dr. Karate, Steroid Jackson, Hella Fist Gerald, and the Beekeeper. But outside of that, there's 11 more characters that you can unlock as you progress through the game. They all have different personalities, different move sets. So there's a lot of uniqueness and diversity in the characters that you can get to play, and they're all pretty damn fun.
So I noticed that there's a ton of enemies on screen at once. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because it changes the complexity of sort of the 2D beat 'em up, doesn't it?
We definitely looked at all the beat 'em ups that we ever loved and tried to put everything that we loved about them into this game. And that's some of the stuff that gets really fun. Is in the original days of beat 'em ups, you may only be fighting 2 or 3 enemies at a time. They'd all be palette swaps of the same guy. And that was really a big downside of the genre. We looked at it and said, no, you need more diversity. You need to not be seeing the same people all the time. You need to not be fighting 2 or 3 people. We have some levels where you have dozens of guys jumping out of helicopters onto your characters and into the playfield. And to us, that's just a necessity to make a modern brawler fun.
That's when you need a lot of good friends as well.
That is, and that's where the local co-op comes in so great. Fist Puncher plays perfectly as a single-player game, but it's really a lot of fun, just like we're having here at GDC, where you can get a bunch of people together and just kick some ass.
So apart from the sort of what you'd expect from a 2D beat 'em up, you also add in some other elements for diversity, for variation. Could you talk us through some of that?
Yeah, it's one of the things that we wanted the game to have some extra complexity. So with each character that you're playing, as you go through the game, you collect attribute points, you level up, and then you can sculpt and hone your character by applying those points to different categories. You earn perk points to purchase new moves and new abilities. So it has those kind of RPG elements to let you kind of build your characters the way that you want to build them. It gives you a little bit more flexibility to, again, kind of sculpt and hone your characters to your liking.
So we're just going to beat up some luchadors here, and I believe it's pretty much... there's a little more to take them out there. But you apart from that variation, you also have like different kinds of levels that aren't necessarily beat 'em up levels. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, again, part of the thing that killed off the beat 'em up genre, I think, was just the repetition. And it felt like you're doing the same thing all the time. So we tried to mix up the level design. We have some levels that are auto-scrolling, where you're riding a motorcycle, one where you're riding an ostrich. We have some levels where time comes into play, where you have to achieve something in a set amount of time. There's one escort mission. I hate to say there is an escort mission, but there's just a lot of variety and different things you have to do. So one time you may think that it's all about using your dash attacks and making sure you kick the boss's ass as quickly as possible. The next time you use that dash attack, you fall off a truck to your death.
So what's going on here? Ostrich farm?
So here we have to successfully get our characters across a minefield, and of course naturally we stopped by and rented out some ostriches to get the task done. And as you say, it's an example of one of these levels where we've changed things up, and you're not just brawling, but now we've kind of switched to a side scroller, and you have to kind of change your skill set. And again, it kind of spices things up, it keeps the game fresh. You don't really feel like you're going through the same type of level every time.
So I understand that the game started out as something very different. This is a very humorous and sort of comedic thing. Can you tell us a little bit about what the journey has been like with the game?
Yeah, originally we looked at a lot of different types of games, and We had some tactics games and some more strategic games and some different stuff we messed around with. But actually some real life events kind of inspired us to mold this and put it into a different direction. And that was really just honestly witnessing crime on the streets of our own neighborhoods. My brother witnessed a murder basically, had his tires slashed. We saw a lot of bad stuff going on the streets. And it kind of made us want to express this visceral feeling of like, the old days, you can solve all those problems by just going out there and kicking people's butt. And it was kind of like, obviously the absurdity of that is hard. It's hard to keep that serious through an entire game. You have to kind of take that with a grain of salt. But it was real life events and things that we saw and the frustration with that and wanting to be able to affect those that kind of made this into a button mashing beat 'em up, something where you could have a little bit more action, some little bit more kinetic experience with it, and feel like you could maybe affect those problems that you do see in your communities every day. As hard as that is to believe, when you're down to the character with Dr. Karate, it was based on real life events from the beginning. I fell off the truck.
All right. So what's the plan ahead with the game? Where are you at, and sort of what do you want to do with the game?
Well, basically, the game is essentially done. We're in the final kind of quality process, just looking for any bugs or glitches. And we're also in talks with Valve, and we want to get the game on Steam. We think we're close to that, and we think we're probably going to see the game out on Steam in the near future.
Of course, with this kind of 4-player co-op setting, you have to ask, any plans for console or anything like that?
We looked a little bit at Xbox initially, but at present, I think the first release is going to be Steam. There's some possibility of an Ouya port, but I really think the game is going to kind of get its first. It's going to first get out there on PC, and we'll see how it does. And maybe in the future, depending on how it does on PC, and we know it's going to do really well, and maybe we'll see some ports to some consoles or some other systems.
Right. I'm going to leave you guys playing. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks for having us. We really appreciate it.
That's great.